Welcome back. This is part 6 of this Bingham Projects takedown recurve boat. Last episode we've got the limbs cleaned up, we got the riser prepared, laminated, got the right angles cut. So today we're going to look at drilling the holes, putting the hardware into the riser, go ahead and cutting the limbs to size, and hopefully getting those limbs mounted so we can check the brace height and that sort of stuff. So stay tuned, hit that like and subscribe, and we'll be back shortly. All right, I got this nice drilling jig here. You probably can't see it, but I've got my center line marked down here. And on this jig, I don't know if you can see it, they do have a line. You might can see my line coming down the middle here, but you can also, with the right light, you can see the lines through these holes here as well. So basically what they want you to do, this jig will take care of the riser, the holes for the riser, as well as the limbs, okay? So what you need to do, there's an in here that says butt riser end right there. You line that up right to the edge here, and then you use the green holes, 1/4 inch and the 27/64. Now the 27/64 needs to be drilled 1 1/4 inch deep into the wood. The thickness of this is 3/4 inch, so I'm going to mark my drill bit with some painter's tape at 2 inches, which once that hits here, I'll know I'm 1 1/4 inch into the wood. So that's the first thing I'm going to do, and then we'll take a look at what we got to do for the 1/4 inch hole. And what I will tell you is that this is really tight on these bits. So I don't think there's much of a way for you to mess up here as far as getting it offline. There we go. That's the first hole we got to make. And we're going to do this on the other side. So I'm going to leave my marker on here. Now I'm going to get my 1/4 inch hole, my 1/4 inch bit, which is going to go right in there. Again, it's super tight. Going to get that mounted. I'm going to double check the measurements for that, and we're going to get this bit marked as well. All right, so the 1/4 inch hole, just double checking the instructions here. Both, it's in the book also, but just double checking the hole for the alignment pin is going to go 1/4 inch deep. Again, 3/4 inch thick. So I set my marker here for 1 inch. So we're going to go ahead and drill that guy now. Just go slow with it, you know, to get started. All right. So that's that. So hopefully I drilled the right holes. Loosen these up a little bit. Look at that. Nice holes drilled in there for both sides, so that's very good clean holes. So we're going to do the same on the other side. Okay, I've got it set. It helps to go ahead and draw your line down the face of this as well. That way you can kind of line up the line on here, there, as well as on your line back here, which will help you. There they are. There's 2 alignment pins right here. These, interesting, but these are really loose. So I'm gonna have to call Bingham's and talk to them about that. All right, so I talked to Elmont about these little alignment pins. They just really loose in there, whereas in the video, they kind of have to tap them in and force them in, you know, 1/4 inch out. These are loose, but anyway, I talked to him, he said, yeah, just put a little epoxy in those holes. We'll be fine for the alignment pins. So you also have to put some epoxy on the threads, because these are the locking threads that we're going to put in here to lock recurve limbs down into. So we're going to have to tap or cut the threads. And so in the kit, you do get a 1/2 inch die tap here. You don't get the head for it, so I happen to have a die kit that was left there from my dad's, and it may not fit, it looks like. I just needed the bigger size handle for this. So we're going to attempt to tap these holes. Okay, I think I'm bottomed out there. Pull this out. All right, I don't know if you can tell, but the threads are cut into the hole there. All right, so what we're gonna do is basically, here's the double threaded insert, which is gonna go into that hole. And you're gonna take one of these Allen wrenches and you're gonna put it about 3/4 of the way into the threads there with a locking nut on it, or a nut on it, have it tight. Because what we're gonna do is we're gonna use the Allen wrench to thread this in, and we're basically using the actual bolt as a tool to help thread this in. So we do need to add a little epoxy to the threads, and because my alignment pins are loose in holes, we need to put a little epoxy in those holes. So I just got a little skewer here that I'm gonna use to try to get the glue down inside the hole so it's not, you know, coming out the top kind of thing and getting all gunky up here, because I don't really think I need a whole lot there. So I got to mix up just a little bit of epoxy, and then we'll go ahead and do this. Okay, so I'm ready to go with this one to thread in here. Just I said don't put too much on the threads. Let's try to spread this around a little bit. All right, set that down. Let's see how well this goes. Guess I'll wipe that epoxy out too, because we don't want it in the threads there. It's definitely not flush with it. Okay, now let's see how this goes. Okay, that's a little better. A little more of the softer. I'm gonna go ahead and take, what I'm gonna do now is take a little bit of this glue. It's like playing operation here. Spread some inside there like such. All right, that's good. Turn around and do the same thing for the other side now. So basically, what I've got there, it's like that. So that's what we're looking at. And do the same thing on the other side. All right, I got both of them done now. So just gonna let that dry up, set that aside. And now I'm gonna get back to the limbs. First thing we need to do is cut a 1/4 inch off the end of each limb. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get my 1/4 inch cut off the limbs. So I gotta use my crosscut slab and mark the line on here, and make sure we're gonna run that through. Depth. That's what these guys look like. So now I'm gonna put the templates on here and draw out what the shape should be. The great thing is I got lots of these little clamps. You kind of see my center line drawn through there. All right, I guess I'm gonna get this traced out now. And it's better to use a pen to trace out these limbs. And they did recommend using a stronger sheet of paper, like a poster board or something like that. And thought about it, but quite honestly, I just didn't want to take the time to trace it out again and cut it out of poster board. Okay, just a few thoughts on this. So, number one, when I cut out my pattern, I know they said to use something a little sturdier like poster board to draw this out with, but even my pattern, I just don't feel like it was cut to a great shape. And really, when I compared it with the pattern that they had on the drawing, I almost feel like this was kind of hand drawn to some degree, and where the tapers actually start to come in is, they just don't look like they're exact, right? So I'm not sure how detailed you have to be on this or not, but I am concerned because I think the more even your limbs are, the less tillering and limb twist you're going to have. And so if you kind of look on the one I drew down here, you can kind of see it comes in here, and that could be my part of drawing it, but my pattern didn't seem so great. And then it almost looked like one starts tillering a little earlier in here than the other one does. It comes in here just a little bit. And so I'm just going to use these guidelines, right? I've got my center line, and what I think I'm going to do is, as I start sanding down, I'm going to use this little digital caliper that I got at Harbor Freight years ago. I imagine they still sell these. With this, I can kind of just check the distances from center line to my sanding area. But right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut the tips of this off, and I may just make a cut or two right here. And I'm probably just going to use my table saw or the bandsaw to cut that off. I've ordered the recommended blade for my bandsaw and ended up ordering the wrong size by mistake. It's supposed to be 3/8 of an inch wide blade, and I ended up getting a 1/8 by mistake, and I thought I was ordering a 3/8. So anyway, so I don't really want to wait on to get going on this, so I'm probably going to go ahead and cut it with my existing blade, and then I'm going to basically use the 40 grit sandpaper to bring it in close to the lines. Okay, I just didn't feel real comfortable with how my limb template pattern was coming out with the parchment paper, and I tried to figure it out going over cardboard, and if I traced the parchment paper, it's gonna be just as bad. And I went back to here, and I was anal enough that I pulled out my calipers, and the distances from the center line to one side were differences in the center line to one side in different areas, because I think this was kind of essentially hand-drawn, maybe with rulers guiding or something like that years ago. That's what I think. So basically, I just started using my calipers. I marked off my distances here, and I started kind of drawing some dotted lines of where different spots were that I was marking against. And at that point, I just put my calipers, measured, kind of took the best measurement between the two, and made sure it was the same on both sides. So I'm just hoping to get a cleaner template, because I just feel like the cleaner my template is, the cleaner my cut's going to be, and the cleaner that, you know, the tiller is going to go and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know if this is necessary, and maybe you don't have to be this detailed, and maybe I'm just being anal over it. I just feel like I'm putting the work into it. I want to do the best I can. So okay, I just didn't like how it was coming out when I was using this template that I cut out. So now I've got the poster board in there, and I feel like I got a better template now. I'm going to redo these lines, but using an orange Sharpie so I know the difference, and just get these lines drawn out on this other limb, and then go back and redraw the lines that are on this other limb over here that I already drew in orange, just I feel better about it that way. It's much easier to trace with the poster board than it is with that other piece of paper that I had, with the parchment paper. Way easier. All right, I don't have the blade they recommend, but this is an old blade, so I'm gonna go ahead and use it. See if we can get this stuff cut. Again, we're gonna go up close to it, but not all the way to the line. I could probably go a lot closer than that. I'm just a little nervous. I haven't cut through this stuff before. I wanna kind of test the waters here. Cut a little closer here. So I didn't take it super close. I'm gonna rely on the 40 grit sandpaper to get it down. I just feel like I'll have, for me, I think I'll have more skill with it at the sander than I will on the bandsaw getting closer. Let's just get the excess off, and I'll do it to the other blade or the other limb as well. Okay, again, pay attention to what you're doing. So I'm looking at this going, this doesn't look right, because why is the 1/4 inch hole here? Because these are the limb holes, obviously, but I've got the wrong end lined up for the limb. So pay attention. One of them says butt riser in, So this is what I used when I did the riser. I need to put this end, the butt limb end, line it up with here. And basically you're gonna line this up with your center line again, and then drill your holes. And once you have it, lock it down a little better. Okay, ready to drill. All right, actually I didn't start drilling yet. What I found is my jig had a little wobble to it, and then I looked, and I've got a little bit of an edge right here. So it's kind of cocking it, just ever so slightly, but that could be enough to affect how this limb goes on there and could cause twists. So I'm gonna go ahead and grind this. You can kind of see the bump I'm talking about right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this grind down. I got plenty of room to work with. I'm gonna go ahead and grind a little bit of this, probably both sides, just to make sure this area is flat on both limbs, and then I'll come back and set my alignment jig up and drill the holes. Let's do it. All right, I feel like I'm in better shape there. So we're gonna go ahead and put it back on the jig and drill that stuff that we need to drill. Okay, I've got my 1/4" bit. We're gonna drill limb holes. This is the one that's gonna go down and should only go into the wood 1/4 inch. So I'm just gonna double check my measurements on that real quick. I think if I'm not mistaken, it was 3/4 was the thickness of the block. Yep. All right, this is just for the alignment pin now. I'm not gonna go quite to the blue. Okay, there we go. That's the alignment pin. Now we've got to drill the 5/16 hole, and that's going to go all the way through, so I got to grab that bit. All right, I'm going to drill this one all the way through. Just double checking my lines all look good. It's all clamped in place. Again, on the orange stripe, which is the butt limb end, just to make sure I'm drilling in the right place. Got our hole all the way through. I put a block behind it just so we'd have a clean hole. All right, here it is, starting to look more like a bow now. I saw one mistake I made, so I'm gonna take these limbs off and I'm gonna show you what that mistake is. But right now where I've got it, as you can see, my red lines, those are the ones that mark where the limbs should go, or you know, the limb template. And I left a lot of room here. I haven't sanded it all the way down yet, grinded it all the way down yet. I've done this with both limbs, and it's a good thing I did. Now, let me take these limbs off and I'll show you why. I'm gonna show you where I almost messed up here. If you notice, that hole's not in the center line. And there's a reason for this. When I was centering this up, my center line on this side, because let's face it, when you drill these holes, you're doing the belly side of the limb, okay? So the string side, that's where you drill the holes with a hole jig. But my center line here, you flip this over, was about a 1/16 off from the center line on this side of the tape for whatever reason. And this side is really, you know, what's gonna be popping up. And so I knew it was gonna be off. If I went with this line, my hole was gonna be shifted from where it was on this center line here. So I needed to go with my front facing side, if you will, of that center line. And so I basically made my adjustments of a 1/16 of an inch before I drilled my holes. So I almost made a mistake that would have put these things offset a little bit from this side center line, because this is the one that's gonna line up, but you have to drill it from the back side. So just make a note of that when you're doing your center line. Make sure they are even on both sides, because that could have been a real bad mistake there. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit both these holes with a bit like this, just barely. Just to kind of take the little bit off the edge there. Same on the other side here. All right, so what I think I'm gonna go ahead and do now is go ahead and start sanding these down. All right, I'm gonna try to get this thing, start getting to the red line. That hole, this is from the jig, lined up on these lines, drilled, look like perfect center. However, when I flip it over, the center line, which is going to line up on the outside of the bow, right, that is, looks to me like the hole is shifted to the left of center, the way my limbs are marked out. And it looks like it's just slight. It's probably less than a 1/16 of an inch, is what it looks like. So what I could do, what I thought about was I could just make that hole my new center line, shift it over, the whole center line over,
and then put my limb template back on there and draw it out again. But really, I think we're talking the distance of maybe the thickness of the orange line. So what I'm going to do is when I sand the right side over here, I'm going to sand until the red line is off. And on the left side over here, I'm going to sand until I see just the red line just remaining. And I think that'll shift it enough, because it's not off much, and I'm hoping that'll shift it enough to where it won't make a difference. All right, that's what she looks like so far. I got the limbs sanded down to size, bolted it back on, and I will tell you, at first glance, when I look down it, man, I'm inexperienced at this, but man, it looks like I got a pretty good center line right there going all the way down. So I'm feeling like this might turn out pretty good. So now that I've got this all mounted and shaped down to size pretty well, it's time to go ahead and put in the grooves for your string. So what I'm doing right here is I'm just going to mark the center point of each one of these spots here best I can, so I know I get them on both sides. And basically I'm going to see if I can come up with a way to kind of put me a 45-degree angle here. I'm just gonna slowly work on notching that out. So this part's a little tougher than I thought. It's not grooving out as easy as I thought it would. You know, I think I'm gonna start with a smaller file. I'm using the chainsaws to start with, I think, and see if I can just get the groove going. There we go. Yeah, that's a little better. Yeah, I started on like with a smaller chainsaw file on both sides, and then I'll switch over to the 6-inch half round file. At this point, I've got the string on the bow with some rough knot grooves cut out, and got it on here. And you do a little work on my knot grooves. I don't think they're lined up quite equally here. I did a brace height check on it, and the guide says between 10 and 11 inches. And you can see I'm just under 10, but I talked to Elmont at Bingham, and he said, no, I'm good there. I'm good with that. And I checked the distance here between these two. That string comes to just above 7, and on this one here is just below 7. It's not quite a 1/4 inch difference between the two, but definitely this is a stiffer limb, so I'm going to mark it as such. But basically the concern was if it's more than a 1/4 inch gap, then you got to work on one of the limbs to bring it into a 1/4 inch. But I think I'm just shy 1/4 inch. I think I'm fine. This is definitely a stiffer limb, so this will be the bottom. I'm going to mark it as such and go from there. All right, so now I've got it on an 18-inch tillering stick, and I'm going to take a look at the ends here, and we're looking for limb twist. And that one actually doesn't look too bad. Kind of looks like a cobra coming out right there. But that doesn't look too bad as far as limb twist on this particular limb. I'm gonna flip it around. Now I'm gonna look at this side, and that one looks like it does have some twist to it. I don't know if you can see that or not. Looks like it's got a, might be easier to see from the naked eye, but it's kind of more like that, if you will. You kind of just barely see that edge right there, I think. So we're gonna have to work on that. All right, so based on that, what that's gonna mean is I'm going to need to file this knot groove in a little deeper, and then take a little bit off of this side of the limb. That's basically how I'm going to start the tillering process to try to straighten that up, because when you want this to come up, you don't want that curve in it. Because remember, there's only 18 inches, and I've got like a 27.5 inch draw. So I've already marked it. I'm going to remove a little bit off of the side. I've already notched out the groove for the string a little bit more here. I didn't do a lot. They said go like 1/8 of an inch. Probably didn't go that much. I'm just going to do this a little at a time, because you know, making a board build before, I took stuff off too fast and dropped the weight so fast on it that I don't want to do that here. So I'm just gonna do a little bit of time, just keep checking it and just be patient with it. I don't know if you can really tell this or not, but I definitely still have some limb twist here. I'm trying to get the focus and see if I can kind of show you there. I'm gonna work on that edge a little bit more and just continue. Again, I'm sanding this edge down a little bit more, And I didn't take this down the full 1/8 of an inch they recommended on this side, so I'm gonna just take it down a little bit more, sand a little bit more. I'm just gonna keep doing that until I get rid of this limb twist. Hopefully you can tell in the video, this is the bottom limb, and this thing looks fantastic as far as this tiller. It's not twisted at all, and it just looks good. So, gotta get the other side straightened up. Okay, this is no doubt a difficult task, and it's not far off. I mean, it's maybe like right here on this side, it's like a millimeter higher than here, whereas the other one, and basically it's hard to tell from this video, but I'm looking at this plane right here, and I'm comparing it down here with the riser block. I know it blurs this in the video, but the other one, it's perfect, man. They're perpendicular. I'm sorry, they're parallel with each other. This one is just a little higher on this side and this side, and I'm just having a time with it. And I talked with Elmont at Bingham, and there's like several different things that can cause this. And what I've done so far is I've kind of notched this in a little bit more. But as I'm looking at my limb, I feel like it might be a little thicker over here. And so, you know, the videos talked about notching here, taking stuff off of here. I've already tried some of that, and I'm just doing a little bit at a time. But I think I'm gonna take a little bit off of here now because I feel like there's a little thickness over here. See if that'll make a difference. But I mean, it's really close. I mean, I might even be able to go with it, but I'd really like to try to make this as good as I can get it. So I'm gonna keep at it here. And quite honestly, I'm just dying to take the tape off and see what these limbs look like. Need to wait until I get this done, and the grooves etched in right here as well. So got to get these limbs tailored. All right, that got me a little closer. I took some off of here. That got me a little closer, so I'm gonna take a little bit more off. Like I said, I'm just doing a little bit at a time. The other side is dead on, and this side just a little bit more work, and I think we'll have it. So basically, I'm just gonna sand a little bit more off of this section right about through here, and see if I can finish it. I got it that time. So now I've got a good tiller on both limbs here. So I feel good about it. That took a little work, and I just did a little at a time. But ultimately what the solution was on this side, I brought this knot groove in a little deeper, and it ended up taking off on this side over here. And that finally brought that limb into place, because right here is where it was kind of like that. I'm exaggerating, but it was at that angle when I looked at it right here. Now I've got it perpendicular, or parallel rather, with the riser block, and it looks straight. It's not tipping in any direction, so yeah, I got it. Whew. All right, so since everything's tillered, what we're gonna do now is we're gonna mark where the string here is touching the limb. And we're gonna take a file and just file a slight groove there for the string to line up on that. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and take the string off. We're gonna file this groove, and this is where I'm getting excited, because once these grooves are filed, all the tape's coming off. So I'm really looking forward to see what this looks like. I'm using a chainsaw file right here to start with. I'm just gonna try to get a groove going right there. Now, you only want to go halfway through the glass on this. See what my groove's looking like. Yeah, we're getting it. I'm just kind of, with every step along the way, I'm just going slow with it, checking it, and I don't want to take off a lot, just to make sure I've got it going. And now that I've got a little bit of a groove, I'm going to go ahead and go to the half round, or the 6-inch round, rather. You can see I'm in the glass there. And it's hard to gauge, you know, how far I've got in there based on the tape being on here. So I think what I'm gonna do now, I've got to start it. I'll start it on both sides, and then I'll go ahead and take the tape off. And then if I got to work it down a little further, I'll put the grooves in a little easier that way. All right, so pretty excited. Fixing to take the tape off. I'm going to take these limbs off, get the tape off of here, see what it looks like. I'll check the grooves I just kind of filed in to, you know, get them a little nicer once the tape is off here. And I do need to mark which one is the bottom limb, because once that tape goes off, all my markings go away. So I need to mark which one's the bottom limb, and that's what we're gonna do. I will tell you the tillering phase was a lot tougher than I thought. Had to go to Trad Gang, get some help. I talked to Elmont, he's real helpful as well at Bingham. So he's very helpful whenever you give him a call. That's what we're gonna do. So it'll become obvious where the bottom is on the riser once this is cut. But since I had the bottom limb on this section, I went ahead and marked it so I know which side I wanna use at the bottom. And I'm gonna start taking this tape off, see what this looks like. Oh man, look at that. Look at that. All right, this is pretty exciting. It's been quite a while here with this tape on it. Man. All right, nice. Been a long time coming. Boom. And there's my groove, which I can work on that groove a little more. It's barely in the glass right there, so yeah, I'll take that down a little bit more, but yeah, check that out. All right, so got all the tape off. I know which one the bottom limb is. This is great, really excited about it. Limbs are, got a good tiller now. So we're gonna wrap this video up where we're at now, so stay tuned for the next segment, which we're gonna work on doing the overlays on the limb tips. And then once that's done, we're gonna start working on the riser. So this is where we're at right now. So I'm pretty happy with how this is going so far. It was tough doing it. Pretty much every part of this has been tough. So every part of this thing has been a little harder than what they make it look like in the video they got from Bingham's, because they make it look like 1, 2, 3, easy peasy, and it's been a little bit of struggle each one, but it's been fun, and I can see a good finished work coming out of this. Just taking it slow, paying attention to detail, getting it done. So hit that like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.